everybody, and welcome to another TCAT video if you're watching me on Clapper. And if you happen to be picking me up on YouTube, it's all things TCAT. And today we're on the Pennsylvania Road, and we're going to visit a very historic tavern. It's no longer in use, but it has a very, very interesting history. Now, I have just preceded this video with a short video that was done on YouTube about the King George Inn. So I would advise you check that out. That'll be posted before this video, and that'll give you a little background on the King George Inn. And then, of course, I'll go into a little more depth, and we will only get to see the exterior. We probably won't get any interior pictures, but there's a lot of history here. There was a lot of history here, and we're going to learn about it today here on the Pennsylvania Road. Currently around the backside of the King George Inn, so I think this would be a good place to start. See, this is all built up. It's all part of Allentown, the outskirts of Allentown, Pennsylvania. That right there is Hamilton Boulevard, which turns into Hamilton Street. But at one time, that was a very important colonial road. The area behind the inn was a place. Now let's go back into time. Revolutionary War. It was a place. Military drilling took place. Now picture it. Pennsylvania militia, Continental Army, right where we're standing. Today, covered by asphalt. These were fields. Imagine the men that stood here, drilling. Militia and Continental Army alike. Well, let's talk about the building. It was built in 1756. We know that was during the French and Indian War. It was built by a man named Johann Heinrich Dorney. And again, we see that there have been a lot of German immigrants that have settled in what is today the Lehigh Valley, and a lot of Pennsylvania. They came here for the fertile farming lands. It was founded as Dorney's Tavern, and King George II had granted the license for the tavern. It stood and still stands as a major colonial route along the road that led south to places like Lancaster and Reading, and north to Allentown. Side this building, which unfortunately we see is littered with someone's hubcap, and it seems to be falling in disrepair, once hosted meetings for the Sons of Liberty. A notable guest, it is said that John Adams and Samuel Adams would stay at the inn. In addition to it being a tavern, a place where people could find food, spirit, and rest on their travels, it also would serve as a town hall, a courthouse, a news center, a social center, of course, and an early church. This building would remain in the Dorney family until the early 20th century. Then in the 1800s, much of it had been known as the Dorney Hotel, no longer the King George Inn. By the name of Stanley Downing took over the hotel around 1930. Then in 1960, a woman by the name of Grace Downing would rename it the White Horse Inn, and it had a large wooden horse and a corral out front, so it would be somewhere in this area here, because this is the front of the building. So imagine a big wooden horse outside Corral. A man by the name of Cliff McDermott would purchase the property in 1970, and it would be a popular eating spot where you could go in and experience dining in an 18th century environment. He operated it for 42 years, but then sadly in 2012, unexpectedly, he announced its closure. And it closed in August of 2012. Now, there have been plans to develop this land, what's next to it, turn it into a hotel, a bank and pharmacy. You can see already is if we look at the top, modern windows are replacing windows that once windows of the 18th century. It looks nothing like the former inn, as it is now reportedly being made into offices. We may be able to look inside and catch a glimpse of some of the renovation. Just imagine the conversations that took place inside that building. People talking about the revolution, the British taking New York, the evacuation of Philadelphia and the capital. Even news about Indian attacks on the frontier, right here in Pennsylvania, with Moravian families being slaughtered by the Indians. You see trash littering this historic spot. I hope whatever renovations they make they will not modernize it too much as to take away its colonial past. This was part of an extension right here that when the King George Inn operated, I think the kitchen stayed in this area here. There used to be an added structure right here that was part of the kitchen. That they had taken down. Again, we get a look at the exterior of this once historic, and still is historic, building. It's known as King George Inn. Time has moved on, and we need our imagination. Picture militia and Continental soldiers drilling in preparation to fight battles like Brandywine, Germantown, Paoli, Monmouth, New Jersey, Princeton. We need our imagination to picture travelers dining by candlelight, drinking ale, probably out of pewter mugs. Men like Samuel Adams, John Adams, the Sons of Liberty, talking about the tyranny of King George III and the British. Yes, this was once a very active and integral part of Lehigh Valley history. Its future remains uncertain. Thanks for tuning in. We're on the Pennsylvania Road, just outside of Allentown, Pennsylvania, at the King George Inn, or the former King George Inn. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to bringing many more videos, and I hope you'll join me as we travel along the Pennsylvania Road, seeking out more history and more adventure. Till then, it's TCAT on Clapper, and all things TCAT on YouTube, saying thanks for tuning in. I hope you're having a great start to your week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.